Welcome to the Lab to Cart podcast, where we explore the intersection of AI and the future of shopping. Our goal is to educate and inspire listeners about the potential of AI in the e-commerce, retail, and D2C sectors. I'm your host, Jimmy Slagle, and let's not wait and get into the podcast. What is going on, Alex? Thank you so much for coming on the show. If you wouldn't mind, just start by telling everyone a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on, Jimmy. I'm Alex Cooper. I run a company called Adcrate. We make performance creative for D2C brands predominantly. We work with some pretty cool brands over the last few years, the likes of Harry's, Caraway, Bite Toothpaste. So yeah, that's my main gig, just spending time making some ad creatives and using AI to help me do so.
I love it. Well, that's a good segue then for this next question. Where do you stand when it comes to AI? Do you think AI is overrated, underrated, properly rated, and especially within the process of creating ads?
I think that AI is overrated in the way that most people perceive it. I think it's underrated in the way that it should be used. And what I mean by that is, like, everyone thinks that AI is this thing that is here to replace us. And they have, at least in my world in creative strategy, people have this expectation that you should just be able to click a button and ChatGPT is going to give you perfect scripts and perfect ads that you can just plug and play. And it almost removes the marketer from the ad. When in reality, that is not the case. I see AI more as something that's here to amplify your creativity rather than to replace the marketer. So working with ChatGPT and revising the scripts that you've got, and rather than thinking of AI, ChatGPT, or whatever tool you're using as something to get your ad or whatever you're trying to work on from 0 to 100 to 100%, can we get it from 0 to 80%, 0 to 90%? And then as the creative strategist, as a marketer, we come in and add our expertise to take it from good to great. And really that's where I see AI in the workflow. And then if it can do that, and then it can reduce 50, 60% of my workload, then that's a net positive to me. So in the way that I actually think it should be used, but most people don't use it, I think it's underrated. In the way that most people perceive it versus what it actually does, I think that it's overrated.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it. I like that breakdown between the actual use cases and the perceived value of what AI can do. Maybe it'd be helpful, Alex. Like, how have you used AI and any of the tools that exist within the AI landscape within the ad creative process? So obviously, like, I followed you quite a bit and have seen that you've started to use like voiceovers using AI, but what else have you used, or walk me through what you've done to actually just use AI within this process?
Yeah, it's been quite a year really, because I was a bit of an AI hater at the beginning. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was kind of skeptical at the beginning when ChatGPT came out, and I didn't really. It came out, what was it, November of last year originally, if I'm
Yeah.
correct, somewhere around there. We didn't end up using it till January or February, or I didn't at least end up using it till January or February properly. And I started to discover like how much more efficient this could make us and how much more we could increase our creative output when we used it properly. So we started working out how to make scripts and getting ChatGPT to analyze reviews and to start brainstorming hooks and start brainstorming visuals. And I'm sure we can get into like the details of that shortly. And writing scripts. And I actually got a lot of pushback on socials when I posted it in May. When we started using it, we used it for 3 months. We actually had to fire one of our creative strategists, unfortunately, because of the increased output that the AI was able to give us. So in terms of how we actually use it in the workflow, there's multiple ways, but I guess the most obvious one is ChatGPT to write scripts. So there's a couple of different ways that we've done this, and there's one way that I'm finding that's working really well at the moment with our scripts. So at the beginning, I tried to work out, okay, if we're basically solving an equation for X, and X is a completed ad script that we can send to a creator or we can send to the editing team to go and chop up. So what are the elements that we need to reverse engineer to feed GPT what it needs so that it can give us the ad script? And I found those 3 elements to be the brand summary, so a bit about your product, your audience, and what you're actually selling. The might as well, I haven't used this formula in a while. The framework. So actually, sorry, the brand summary, the angle that you wanted to execute. So here's what we want to do. We want to make a 3 reasons why ad. We want to make this kind of ad. We want to make this kind of ad. And then the framework. So here's the structure that you're going to follow. You're going to follow hook, problem, product intro, etc., and then go through it. And then ChatGPT started giving us like good scripts that we could then go and edit. And once again, they're not going to be 100%. Sometimes you have to go through feedback revisions. Sometimes you have to edit them yourself. But we were doing that at the first half of the year, and we were finding that it was cutting our creative workload. When scripts used to take me 1-2 hours to write, now they were taking 30-45 minutes without a drop-off in quality, which is obviously incredibly important. And that's also one of the main things that people have, one of the main objections that people have with AI. Okay, you can do 3x more output, but what if the output drops by 20-30%? Well, as we've said already, you shouldn't just be relying on the first answer from the AI to be your final output. And if you actually work with the AI, you give ChatGPT feedback, or you take the scripts outside of ChatGPT and then amend it yourself, found that like 30-40 minutes, you can easily have a script as to the same quality, but in half the time. That's what we're doing for the first half of the year. Now, what I've been finding recently,
I think that alone
really is
very
instead of
interesting.
saying, "Hey,
and I think one thing that you touched on that
is
a lot
we
of
want you
people
to create a new
feel
script,"
is the fact that when they use AI, it's often something where they start to see a decline in quality. And so, for example, even though you can have more output, the question becomes, does that actually make things better, or is the quality so much lower that it's not even worth it? So I'm curious, have you tested with any of your clients taking an ad that is entirely AI generated, so meaning the script, and compared it to something that's maybe like completely human to see what the difference was? Or have you tested any of those things just to kind of reiterate and make a point with concrete data, like here's what AI was able to do, here's what humans were able to do, here's the difference?
Yeah, I've got an answer to that, but just 1 second, Jimmy. I don't know if it was my internet or your internet there, but I think that there was a little bit of a lag, and I think I went into the next part while you were speaking on the question on that part.
Oh,
So I don't know if
sure.
that was something on my side or your side, but you might just have to look at that in post.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. So let's pick up then. We can probably cut this past, I don't know, minute or so.
Yeah.
Pick up right when you were at the point of like, that's what we did for the first half of the year, and now
Okay.
start with like,
But
now here's what.
you feel free to ask that question again though, because I've got an interesting answer to it.
Okay, cool.
Okay, cool. So that's what we did in the first half of the year. What I've been finding recently that's been working really well is, instead of saying, hey, we want ChatGPT to write a script completely from scratch, instead, what we're doing is we're going out and finding a few ads to use as inspiration, transcribing them in a tool like the script, and then going back to ChatGPT and saying, hey, here's 3 ads that are doing really well. So, I mean, ideally, you have the ad account data and you know they're doing really well. You're not always going to have that. So sometimes like you'll look onto like the ad libraries, or you look on Foreplay and you'll see ads that have been performing for a long time. And granted, like that's not always an indicator that they are performing well. But generally, if they're running 3+ months, most times you can assume that they're performing well inside the ad account. So you go and find 3 performing ads, or you take ads from your own ad account and transcribe them. Say to GPT, hey, here is 3 ads for you to use as inspiration. Here is a bit about our product. I want you to write me a script in the style of these inspiration ads. And we've actually found that the output of that has been better than asking ChatGPT to write a script from a blank slate. And I've actually had a few cases over the last few weeks where we've pretty much had scripts that I haven't had to do any amendments to. They're ready to go off to the creator, or they're ready to go off to the editing team, which is obviously great for me, because now I've got a script inside like 5 minutes that I can send off to the editors, or I can send off to a creator, and I can go and like, once I've got that script, I can ask ChatGPT to generate me 5, 10, 15, 20 variations. And it means that I can do a lot more creative testing in a lot less time. And I know that a moment ago, what do you want to ask that question about the quality? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. No, I mean that is so interesting, and it's cool. Like the crazy thing that we have to realize is that we're still in the early days of this whole process. So what it's going to look like a year from now, I think it's going to be even better. But one thing that I think a lot of people have touched on is this idea that even though AI can help with the output, quality is a big concern or issue. For example, even if AI can generate 10 scripts and that takes you an hour, would you be better off from a performance perspective to just try to make one really good script because AI, might still not have the full ability to understand if what it's saying is actually effective. So I'm curious, have you like tested anything out within actual, client data of where you have a script that turns into an ad that was fully generated from AI, and like compared it to what a human could do, like almost put AI versus human in this sort of competition? And if you have, like, what were the results, or what have you been thinking around that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And once again, I do have a slightly more nuanced take on it rather than this one's better or that one's better. Look, if you said to me, you've got one shot to make the best ad creative in the ad account, I would probably sit down and write the whole script out myself. I'd spend 1 to 2 hours brainstorming the script, and I may use AI to help me, but AI would not write the script. When we write scripts with I do see it as a more of a volume play than this is going to give you the highest quality. Now, that doesn't mean that is better or worse, because some brands are in a position where they need volume, not necessarily they need volume over quality, but that makes more sense in the context of their ad account. If I'm only spending 10K a month on Facebook and I have very limited budget to do creative testing, okay, it might not make sense for me to go and put out 20, 30 scripts with AI because I don't even have the budget to test that variation. But if I'm spending, let's just say 10K a day, 20K a day, I'm now in a position where my account needs volume and I need to test a lot of different angles quickly. And that's where you would be better off going with a volume play for AI. And I don't necessarily have to be spending 10, 20K a day. Like, we've got accounts that are spending as little as 2K a day who are performing really well with AI ads. I guess it kind of depends on where your business is at and how much of a need your ad account has for excess creative right now. Now, off the back of what I was saying a moment ago on I call it the copy successful method, using other ads as inspiration and then getting ChatGPT to write scripts. What we've done as the next phase of that is we use 11 Labs as well to actually voice over these scripts. So you use ChatGPT to generate the script. You use 11 Labs, which is a tool that's just going to help you generate voiceovers, and you can either create your own voices or you can actually mimic the style of creator voices, which is another conversation that can save you a ton of time with revisions with creators. But we've just been plugging it into some default voices that we've created. And now suddenly you've got, within potentially 10, 15, 20 minutes, you've gone from no script and no ad to now have a script that's been voiceovered. And if you have a content library of footage, you can just send that over to the editing team, and you've effectively, without having to pay creators, go back and forth with creators, spend the time building out a network. Within an hour, you can have an ad that's not even an idea to ready to test inside the ad account. And I could tell you, at least anecdotally, we've got multiple ad accounts right now where that ChatGPT and 11 Labs combination, where there is no, we've not have to pay anything to creators for additional footage to be shot. We've just used the existing B-roll library, ChatGPT for the script, 11 Labs for the voiceover. We've got multiple accounts where those ads are currently the best performers.
Wow. So Alex, I mean, that brings up a question, and I'm sure people listening to this are going to ask the same thing. And we can even now touch on what we were talking about a little bit before the show, of how GPT-4 can now recognize images. And for example, you could upload an image ad that you're planning on using and ask it to create 10, 15 different variations. What do you think the role of a creative strategist is going to be over the next year or so, with all of these different tools that are coming out that I think definitely can amplify the output that these creative strategists can do. But do you think do you think it just is going to slim down a lot of the potential job openings because you might only need one creative strategist to create the output that it used to take 3 or 4 full-time creative strategists to do? And so how do you see kind of AI and human or even more or specifically creative strategists, how do you see that relationship kind of evolving over the next couple years?
I mean, it's going to be very interesting. If you'd asked me 12 months ago, I would have had no clue that we'd be where we are today.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily easy to predict where we're going to be. Look, I think that as the creative strategy role continues to fuse with the media buying role, the modern day creative strategist is going to be using AI alongside the data that they can see inside the ad account to like amplify the work that they're doing. Now, one thing that I think is important to note is that yes, we're using AI to brainstorm visuals and brainstorm hooks and come up with the ideas and in some cases write the scripts. You shouldn't become reliant upon the AI to be your source for creative ideation or script writing, because that's when I feel like you could ease into a cycle of becoming lazy. So when we onboard a new client, for example, we will sit down as a team and we will brainstorm ideas. I mean, we will obviously go and analyze the reviews and get ChatGPT to start doing some brainstorming themselves. But at the same time, we're brainstorming ideas ourselves from marketers, from like things that we've seen in other accounts, from things that we've seen on Twitter and LinkedIn and other ideas that we're fostering. And then we almost treat it as like a big brain dump between our team and the AI. And then everything goes onto the board. And then you're going to pick out which ones you think are good to go into production. And I think that it's going to be at large what happens over the next 12, 24 months. It's the strategists that, look, they're not all in. They're not using AI like exclusively for their ideation. They're not exclusively themselves, their ideation. They confuse the two and then be able to have the expertise. And this is where the expertise comes in. Here's all the ideas that we've got from like reading reviews, from ad comments, from everything from data inside the ad account. Now I'm going to use my marketing expertise to decide which ones you're going to take into development. And that's where I think you can add value as a creative strategist over the next 12, 24 months.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Out of any, and this is a podcast for e-commerce and direct to consumer and retail companies. And I think out of any role, the one that I am most interested in seeing evolve is going to be the creative strategist, just because AI is either going to become its best friend or the thing that could potentially replace a good amount of them. And so that is something that I'm just very interested to see how that's going to unfold over the next, again, like you said, 12, 24 months. Alex, another question that I have for you too. And let me just make sure. Okay. Were you about to go on a tangent there?
No, but I didn't have too much, so we're all good to carry on.
Okay, sounds good. So another question that I have too is, we're seeing platforms like Meta, we're seeing platforms like YouTube rolling out their generative AI tools. So Meta, you can now use their tool to help generate like background images, and you can use Meta to help generate like text on different static ads. How do you see companies like Meta? Do you think that they're going to become the tool that everyone just uses to help create more ads? Or walk me through like what you think the balance between what Meta is going to try to do for brands versus where agencies are going to fit in this process as AI continues to evolve. Like should people be trying and testing out the technologies that Meta or YouTube/Google are coming out with, or have you seen anything about them and just been like, yeah, these are still in the pretty early days of what they are able to do?
I mean, I'm not necessarily bullish on Meta as a creative platform. I think that they're very good at ads. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, and they develop something that everyone uses. But I think that it's predominantly going to be the creative platforms, like the Mid Journeys, like the Dalis, like the Photoshops that people will use for their creative. Maybe Meta could get itself to the point where, in the same way that we were talking about earlier with ChatGPT, it's going to allow you to do a lot of volume. Maybe you put an ad into Meta, and it's going to be able to generate 20 different variations of that ad automatically for you. I don't know. I'm curious to see how it evolves. We haven't done too much on the ad platforms themselves in terms of making new creative. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily put too much stock into them.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think that's a fair point. Have you tried any of like the full AI ad creation tools? I know like Adcrate AI is one that's pretty popular. There's a lot of static and static ad companies that exist. Have you tried any of those? And if so, what are your early thoughts on them?
Yeah, I tried to shoot a YouTube video recently, or that was titled "I paid every AI platform to make me an ad." And honestly, they didn't come out that good. Like I tried a bunch of them. I tried Ad Creative AI, which I've heard very good things about. I've tried a few others. I couldn't make them stick. And honestly, we've had our best success with AI generated ads with Midjourney. Well, with static ads with Midjourney and more recently Dali. Um, I'd been a bit of a Midjourney fan for the last few months, but Midjourney is making it difficult for us to add text onto the images. But Dali seems to be okay with that. So we've been using a lot of Dali recently. In terms of ad creative specific ones, I mean maybe it's because we're in e-commerce and that requires something a little more tailored than a local business might need. But I haven't really found any of them to be that good so far. So Dali, Midjourney have been good for us. And then on the video side, we've been using a lot of GPT, 11 Labs, and actually recently, this is not necessarily for like making new ads, but Opus Clip, which I'm sure quite a few of the people listening to this podcast would have heard of, is a platform that you can dump your long form footage into, and it will use AI to break down the key points. And that was actually originally developed for podcast people who do podcasts to develop into shorts so they can post on socials. We've actually been using it in a slightly different way. We often ask our creators to like just one take their videos. Don't worry about cutting and like doing 50 different clips. Just turn the camera on and let it roll. If you make mistakes, fine, we'll cut it out. Put that long form clip into Opus, and then it will actually pick out the key points of the video. And I mean, Opus will give you fully edited ads. Most of the time, they're not there. Although we have had a couple that we can just run straight away, and it's great because they caption them and they put emojis, and it's like I mean, for lack of a better term, a Hormozy style edit, which I mean, can work sometimes. So we've actually got a few ads that we can run straight away, which is really useful because we don't have to do any video editing. But the main use case for that has been it's just taken a 10-minute video file of a creator talking about a product and cut it down into the key points so that we don't have to, our editors don't have to spend the time going and cutting out all the little bits. So a lot of times we'll take that, we'll remove the captions. So you basically just take out the raw edited file and then we'll go and edit it. And that saved our editing team quite a bit of time. So that's been a win on the creative side recently. And yeah, like I said, I actually had a few ads from there that have been great to test, and we put them straight into the ad account.
Wow. Wow, yeah, that's incredible. I'm also curious to get your thoughts. How do you find these tools? Obviously, I think ChatGPT, Midjourney, Dolly are the ones that are pretty well known at this point in time. But like even 11 Labs or Descript or now Opus Clips, like how have you been able to find these tools? Do you follow like AI newsletters? Is it through Twitter? Like walk me through how you become aware of these tools.
Yeah, honestly, I spend too much time on Twitter. Um, that's the reason for finding most of these clips. And I'll follow people outside of e-commerce, like people who are AI geeks that always talk about these tools, and it doesn't really get seen in the e-com space. And then I'll test them out. We literally have a team member at Adcrate who's, I mean, she's not full time on it, but she spends like a good chunk of her time just researching new AI tools. So every time I see something, I'll send it over to her. I'll say, go and test this and see if there's any use cases for us. And a lot of times, yeah, like that Opus Clip example, it's not necessarily built for ad creative, but I look at it and I think, okay, what are the potential use cases here that we can start integrating into our systems? And it's actually funny, like I said earlier, I was a bit of a skeptic at the start of the year. Then I started tweeting about AI and making LinkedIn posts about it. Now everyone kind of knows me as like the AI guy in e-com and creative strategy, which is kind of weird because I actually learned so much of the stuff that I know about AI purely through having like forcing myself to make content about it. So I go out and I try these tools, like the YouTube video where I was trying the new AI tools and going to make tweets and threads, and I end up finding out a lot of tools and a lot of cool information. And obviously, knowing people who are very smart like yourself, Jimmy, I just make sure I surround myself with a lot of people in the know, and just having conversations, and you tend to find, what people are working on.
Okay, Alex. So last question that I have, and this is a question that we love to end every podcast episode with, and that is like what is your I don't know, piece of advice, or just kind of like, maybe not hot take, but just something that you believe in strongly when it comes to AI and the future of e-commerce, D2C, retail. Like what is that one thing where if people were to ask you, like, Alex, what should I know about AI? Or what's that one thing that you believe in when it comes to AI? Like, what is your answer in that space? And I like to keep it a little broad because this, you can use it and take it any direction that you want. But what is just like that one liner, or that core theme that more people should know about when it comes to AI?
That's a great question. The two pieces of advice I would say. Okay, I'll start again. That's a great question. The two things I would say is, number one, don't look for prompts. Work out how to be a good prompt engineer. So don't just, like, everyone always asks me for like, what's your prompt list, or like, where can I download your prompt list? Work out how you can be good at prompt engineering and actually reverse engineering the answers that you want from the AI rather than copying someone else's prompt, because that's not going to get you anywhere. And number two, as we said earlier, AI is not here to replace you, it's here to amplify your creativity. So just go in knowing that it's not going to give you a 100% perfect answer every time. You've got to work with it. And then ultimately, if you use it well, it will more likely than not increase your output and decrease the time, which is decrease the time that you spend, which is at the end of the day a net positive, whether you've had to work with the AI or whether you just plugged in your script and then got an output from it. So those would be the two things I'd say.
I love it. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on the show. Always appreciate you and your insights. And if you do not follow Alex on Twitter, I highly recommend it. He drops a lot of knowledge bombs when it comes to AI and e-commerce, especially within advertising. So thank you, Alex, and we'll chat soon, dude.
Thanks, Jimmy.